So now we'll be going over Characters in the Wood, pages 32, 33, and 34. This chapter outlines how you can customize your characters, everything from physical characteristics, backgrounds, class options, feats, and spells, all in keeping with the flavour of Humblewood. Character details. Your character is more than just a collection of rules. Here are a few tools to help you flesh out the look and feel of your character. Sex and gender. The sex or gender of your character doesn't confer any special bonuses or penalties. Playable races do not exhibit physical characteristics based on sex, and traits such as plumage, markings, and size difference are not associated with a specific sex or gender. The most significant variations in physical appearance come down to a character's subrace. Height and weight. The table below can be used to decide your character's height and weight. These are based on the information provided in each race's description and reflect the natural variation that occurs within the different folk of the wood. To use this table, first locate your character's race and roll for their height modifier. Add this result in inches to the base height shown in the previous column. Next, using the appropriate column, roll for your weight modifier. Some races have a flat weight modifier. If this is the case, simply use the number provided in this column. Then, take the number you rolled for the height modifier and multiply it by the weight modifier. Add this result in pounds to your race's base weight. You may notice that the weights for birdfolk races are significantly lower than for humblefolk of a similar size. The birdfolk have hollow bones, reinforced by special internal structures that act as struts. Along with other weight-reducing adaptations, this allows birdfolk to glide. Birdfolk characters are not negatively impacted by their lower weight. So I'll go through the base weights and heights. If you want to roll, you can have a look at the modifiers on the document. So a Grove Servan has a base height of 4'8" and a base weight of 110 pounds. A Pronghorn Servan has a base height of 6'1" and a base weight of 120 pounds. A Corvum has a base height of 4'4", base weight of 70 pounds. A Gallus has a base height of 3'4", a base weight of 55 pounds. Hedge, base height 2'11", base weight 30 pounds. Gerbine, base height 2'4", base weight 20 pounds. Luma, base height 2'8", base weight 25 pounds. Mapak, base height 3'11", base weight 85 pounds. Raptor, base height 2'11", base weight 25 pounds. Strig, base height 3'10", base weight 80 pounds. Vulpin, base height 4'2", base weight 80 pounds. A little more. Altering race size. The sizes listed in the racial descriptions represent suggested averages of the various races. Players can adjust these sizes depending on the kind of birdfolk or humblefolk character they'd like to play. Some varieties of Strig, a race that takes their physical characteristics from owls, could be smaller sized, around 3 feet tall, if desired. Similarly, Raptors, a race whose physical characteristics resemble birds of prey, could reach around 5 feet in height. For the sake of simplicity, we advise that regardless of the physical measurements of a character, they follow the size category rules of their race, i.e. medium or small. In the lore, this can be expressed by saying that even a small Strig is solid and strong, where even a taller Raptor is light and agile. This will make calculating things that rely on size categories much easier, rather than having to remember which size variant a player has chosen for a race. Alternatively, if the races represented here are too big when placed in comparison to humans in other campaign settings, size categories can be adjusted accordingly. This is entirely a matter of taste. It is recommended to do whatever makes the most sense for the kinds of worlds you'd like to build and the kinds of stories you'd like to tell. Variant rule. Different look for birdfolk and humblefolk. The wood covers a vast area of different environments. As such, birdfolk and humblefolk can showcase a variety of different forms. At the discretion of the DM, your Humblewood character may look different than other members of its race. While not exhausted, we've provided a few examples of suitable analogues for different kinds of animals from which a playable race could take inspiration. These examples are in keeping with the flavour and mechanics of that race. So, in alphabetical order, Servan. Servan characters could be imagined as elk, moose, or antelopes. Any hoofed creature with horns would fit the bill, especially those native to forest or mountainous environments. While not every Servan has horns, the ability to grow them is seen as a blessing of Kyrith and is a part of their culture. Corvum. Birds which are known for their dark coloration, such as crows, blackbirds, grackles, would be a good visual fit. Despite typically being dark-feathered, a variety of colourful corvids exist. Jays, nutcrackers, and jackdaws are good examples. No matter which type of bird is being used for visual inspiration for your corvum, it is important that they have at least one black feather. Black feathers on a corvum are known as the mark of Gesmi, and they are thought to impart some of Gesmi's reckless curiosity. Gallus. Gallus characters are usually represented by landfowl of all kinds, ranging from those with small rounded bodies suited to ground life to those with larger proportions. Waterfowl such as ducks or geese could be used as visual inspiration for communities of Gallus living by the Humblewood's wetlands. Other fowl, known as such as peacocks, could also be used. While not closely related to fowl, herons, storks, and bitterns could be good reference for taller marshland-dwelling communities of Gallus. Gallus characters with ostentatious, colourful plumage are generally better suited to the bright Gallus subrace, while those with modest, earth-toned feathers might be better suited to the Huden Gallus subrace. Hedge. While inspired by hedgehogs, having a hedge character based on a quilled animal that inhabits forest, such as porcupine, would also make sense, although they would probably not be native to Humblewood. Armadillos, pangolins, or echidnas could also work. Gerbine. The gerbines are inspired by jerboas, a kind of jumping mouse. Other small rodents with mouse-like proportions, including chinchillas, could be used for visual inspiration as well. Though, a greater stretch, the gerbine's speed, size, and communal way of life would make them an ideal analogue for races based on rabbits or hares. Luma. Lumas are inspired by doves and pigeons, but their size and high charisma means that small songbirds such as chickadees, wrens, sparrows, and cardinals would also be a good fit. A bird of paradise could be used as well due to their focus on performance, though they might be better suited for visitors to Humblewood from more tropical regions. Birds with brighter or more decorative plumage would also correspond to Cirrolumas, while those with more muted feathers would be better as sable lumas. Mapak. Inspired by raccoons, Mapak characters can reference members of the weasel family, such as ferrets and badgers. Mapaks are hearty and crafty and possess a climbing speed, which means any members of this family, including polecats, would be good fits. Raptor. Raptors take after small birds of prey, like falcons and hawks, but using larger species like eagles or vultures as a reference would also work for raptor characters. Marin raptors could also take visual inspiration from seabirds, notably petrels or shearwaters, due to their swim speed. Strig. Strigs usually resemble owls of all kinds. Owls comprise a very large and diverse family of birds, and examples can be found which are small, large, or unique in appearance. For larger, more intimidating strigs, the great grey owl or giant Scops owl can provide a robust presence, while smaller strigs could take inspiration from the little owl or boreal owl. Regardless of their size, stout strigs tend to be bulkier with denser feathers, while swift strigs tend to be more slender and streamlined bodies. Vulpin. Vulpins generally look like foxes, but an alternative visual reference would be wolves, coyotes, or other hunting canines that could commonly be found in a forest environment. Vulpins should be represented as wild animals illustrate the duality of their sophisticated yet savage nature. Breeds of tamed dogs would not be a good fit. Sorry. Just a little more. Languages of the wood. Race determines the language your character can speak by default, and your background might give you access to one or more additional language of your choice. You're free to select these from among the languages offered in other 5e material, but there are several languages which are specific to the wood. The standard languages listed below are part of common life in Humblewood and are spoken widely. Sylvan, along with various dialects of Primordial, Auran, Aquan, Ignan, and Terran, are uncommon languages known by only a few in the wood, but they can prove exceptionally useful in communicating with the various Fae and elemental Humblewood residents. Each birdfolk race represents a unique and mystical connection to the element of air, which allows them to understand Auran from birth, although they are unable to speak it naturally. Birdfolk who wish to become fluent in this dialect must take the time to learn. Because Auran is a dialect of Primordial, birdfolk innately understand Aquan, Ignan, and Terran as well, though not perfectly. Compared to Auran, the other dialects of Primordial sound stilted or broken to birdfolk. While they can understand simple concepts presented in these dialects, more complicated matters are lost in translation. Common in birdfolk. Birdfolk takes the place of common in Humblewood. As the language of trade and custom, the folk of the wood take the time to learn it. Other 5e races who choose to visit Humblewood will want to know birdfolk. Likewise, birdfolk or Humblewood characters visiting other lands should add common to their language list. So the standard languages: birdfolk, typical speakers are birdfolk and Humbleford folk, and it uses the birdfolk script. There's a Servan language, which is spoken pretty much just by Servans, with no script, it's just spoken. Hedges speak Hedge, and they use a Sylvan script. Gerbines speak Gerbine, and they use the birdfolk script. Mapaks speak Mapak, and they use a Mapak script. Vulpins speak Vulpit, and they use their own script as well. So a little more on each of these languages. So for flavour more than anything, and I think this gives you a really good sense of what the different races are all about as well. Birdfolk. Birdfolk is a language of clicks, caws, and whistles. Though primarily oral, a system for writing birdfolk in pictograms was developed long before the founding of Alderheart, and has since transformed into a set of abstract glyphs representing different sounds. Birdfolk can be written quickly with a quill or scratched easily with a claw, and has been widely adopted throughout the wood. Servan is a complex language with no written script. It is seen as disrespectful to try and transcribe it using birdfolk characters. Much of Servan history is preserved by village elders and passed down orally through the generations as stories, songs, and sayings. The adage, "What is essential to learn lies in the teaching," is often invoked to illustrate this point. Hedge is a language meant to be spoken softly. It confounds many who try to learn it due to the prevalence of passive voice and the differential manners built into conversation. These are meant to ensure that everyone's feelings are heard and respected. It is written using a variation of the Sylvan script. Gerbine is a system of squeaks and clicks, represented in writing by using a variant of birdfolk alphabet. It is a polite but direct language designed to communicate information quickly and effectively between multiple listeners. Mapak is a very technical, dense language. You can tell, it's a technically dense language that often incorporates rough equations and estimations of physical properties in normal conversation. Awareness of one's surroundings is key to survival, and the Mapak language emphasizes this. Mapak uses its own script of glyphs made of various lines, dashes, and dots. Vulpin is a language of growls, snarls, and yips. It is written in its own flowing cursive script. Speakers are taught to switch between low and high class versions of Vulpin, depending on the context. The biggest stumbling block for new speakers is learning when to use which form. So that is a little look at variations on the characters and their physical properties, as well as their spoken languages.